Was this the stroke from the piece of shrapnel in your neck?
The stroke from the scar tissue from my heart when I was scrambling eggs one morning broke loose and went up and did a brain stem stroke right like that.
What?
Yeah. From a blast, left scar tissue on my heart. Nobody ever told me that this might happen or it was a possibility. And a piece
That's
of,
when you got blasted with the RPG.
actually it was the one before that, walking into the chow tent. That's the one when I ended up getting scar tissue on my chest. So
So
told
was
me
was that the that wasn't the one that
knock my teeth out? No.
no. How many blasts have you been in?
3.
Okay.
And asked me if they were any fun.
I don't think they were.
The first one I don't remember, except I woke up choking to death because my hard hat had flipped around with it. And I had the fucking strap on it, and it was the hard hat had flipped around so fast I had to take the K-bar up and cut it with my knife to get it off. I couldn't even get to the clip. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was twisted around such a way that when I woke up, I was, yeah, it was fucked up, man.
Whoa.
I mean, it knocked me slap out, but I'm glad it did because, yeah, I think, the shock factor would have got me anyways, but just being knocked out from the blast was probably a helpful thing.
Where did that? And that was the first.
Yeah, it was Iraq.
That was in Iraq.
Mm-hmm. And that was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Booby trap. Oh, through the air you go.
Wow.
The second one was just like in a cartoon. I flew doubled over like this from here to that tree before I hit the ground and tumbled. I said, oh, damn, ears ringing, bells, stars in your head. You couldn't see straight. Yeah, and then everything was happening. People running, guns firing, planes, whatever the fuck was happening. You could see it all, but you couldn't hear a thing. It's like dead silence from the blast took away your whole hearing.
Wow.
From the concussion. Yeah, and it took minutes for it to recoup. I mean, literally.
Wow.
So yeah, and luckily, those first 2 blasts really just kind of didn't do physical damage, just a lot of wind, hot air.
A lot of wind and hot air.
Oh well.
Oh.
Yeah. And if anybody you ever talk to that says they're a veteran and doesn't look you in the face and say I was petrified, they weren't in combat. I'm just saying, I don't care how good you adjust to it, you're scared to death every step of the way. Because every step might be the last step you take. And you can't help but thinking about that. I don't care if you're Sergeant O'Rourke or not.
Right.
I'm just saying, you can't, nobody can explain war or combat. It's different. Every bullet that's shot is a different scenario, a different climate, a different region, a different enemy. It's just pretty much all the same lead. I'm sure it all comes from the same lead factory. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So the rest of it, though, it changes like every day. Either you're in the flatlands, the desert, in the heat, you're up in the hills, the foothills, down by the river. The territory's different, the climate's different, the people act different in different regions. Even like in America, you go from Georgia and people talk down here like this here, got all this drawl, and then you go to New York City and they talk different, and believe it or not, their idealisms are different too, from New York to the Georgian to the Minnesotan to the, everybody has their own little ideologies. You follow me? In different sectors of even the United States.
Yeah.
So these other countries, just like Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, had different states. So when you traversed around that region for a minute, you run into different attitudes, different, some people are pro-Taliban, some weren't. So, that varied on your arrival at any enclave you might end up at. I mean, and it was basically, you went from compound to compound. It was just like in the flatlands, they had fields and stuff growing, but they'd build these compounds with walls around it. That's just how they lived. So, you'd have to raid the compounds, each one you came to. So, it was actually a fortified stronghold if you were running against somebody inside. So normally when we went inside those places, it was not very hostile. You understand, they were more farm people just trying to get through the war, just like I was. So, and you can look at somebody in the eye, whether you understand their language or not. I can look at you, you can look at me, and we can understand one another. I can see there's no fear coming from these eyes right here. So when you meet people in other lands where you're not quite sure what they're saying or thinking, you have to really look at their eyes. And once you do that, then they look at your eyes, and then they're a man too, so they think about it, and then either you're there or you ain't. You know what I mean? Either it's a friendly affair or you don't trust it. You can tell by looking at somebody whether or not to trust them a whole lot. So, yeah, I'm just saying, so it's kind of interesting in different regions and being in different eras of the war. And then watching the military evolve over the years that I was in and out, god damn. It was quite amazing to see the transformation of how it was and how it is. And as I said, now at the Marine Corps base, they pass out cards to these fucking recruits and say, here you go, son. If the sergeant's being too hard on you, you give him this card and he has to leave you alone. No, that's not the Corps image. The Corps is to take all the shit that they can give you, makes you a better man. So now they've changed all that training to, kind of leaning towards the LGBTQ territory, if you ask me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And then putting women in the front lines, I'm totally against that. I hate to say that because that's racism in now today's world. Women think totally different than a man does. That's thus women and men. Men are from Pluto, women are from Mars, blah, blah, blah. In actuality, in a combat scenario, women do not do well. They have far more emotional things in the background than a man does. A man runs over a squirrel and, oh, I feel bad. A girl runs over the squirrel and the tears come down the eyeballs. So you take one into combat, then men around them, because of we are American born and bred, we're more apt to try to coddle and take care of that girl than we are to tend to the job that we are there to do. And that's my opinion with the Marine Corps. Girls are great and they're super neat and all that. They do not belong in a combat scenario. Not at all. I'm just saying that's absurd. Because they don't think the same as a man and they can't absorb what's happening like a man. They can say all they want. Oh, I'm a man, and they can do all that they want. But up here it doesn't change. They might get an operation and get a donkey dick, inserted on them or something. But I'm just saying, they can't change this. I don't care how bad they don't want to be a woman. They were born that way. So when you get them into combat, yeah, it's just problematic. They don't react the same. I've been beside a woman or two that have probably outfought 1,000 men I've met. You understand what I'm saying? Far and few between. One was an Afghani freedom fighter, and she was just gorgeous, Todd. This girl was just 30 years old and from out of a book. I mean, just natural beauty, and with an AK strapped on her neck. She was pretty hot. And she led a band of 130 men, and they listened to her and just without a question. She threw a command out, everybody hustled. It was cool. She was a good girl. I really enjoyed spending a couple days with her in the hills. I mean, just getting to know her. And she spoke kind of good English, so that was cool. I mean, but, you meet girls like that. She'd been fighting since she was like 13. So, she had a lot of years under her belt in those mountains and regions. So, but for her to hold a command position just kind of amazed me. But after fighting beside her, I see why. The bitch was bad and had a goal in mind, and that was to free the people of Afghanistan and stop the warring factions that are going on there from, and didn't agree with ISIS and all the rest of it. So, oh well. Interesting place. And our boys, I don't care who's over there, and girls, whether they should have been or not, they all did an outstanding job at everything that they were told to do in a combat area. For, every one guy in the front, it takes 7 in the back to keep them there. So even if I run into somebody that says they were a cook in Fallujah, I still give them a hug and tell them thanks, because they had an opportunity to get killed too. There was always a rocket, always a bomb, always a suicide vest, there was always an IED. So, these boys were under combat stress. And even if they didn't grab a rifle and hit the front line or go on patrols, they still served exactly what they needed to be doing. So thank you very much for your service, all of them. You know what I mean? There wasn't anybody that I could exclude from that list. None. Some I admired more than others, but as far as the appreciativeness and the of what they all do, and to go to war, it takes a lot of effort. And you know how it is. Todd used Coast Guard. There's a commander, there's chiefs, there's Indians, there's, you know what I mean, and everything gets done. Don't matter where it falls. It might fall down the ladder pretty hard on you, while you're out there scrubbing or paintbrushing. But I mean, it runs efficiently. That's why the military runs that way. And even in Coast Guard, they teach you to become a number. When you're going through boot camp and got to fold your underwear and your locker's got to be right and all this stuff, and your name becomes pretty irrelevant at that point. You know what I mean? You're a fucking number for a general to move around on a plastic war games board.
Yeah.
That's basically all it is. So it's like, that's what they try to get across your head when you go in. You're nobody. You don't do anything until somebody tells you to do something, Todd. That was really hard for me to do because I don't like people telling me what to do. So when I went in the military, I had a really hard time with that, Todd. Just like people did not enjoy my attitude. And even way back then, I had no fear of the instructors or anything, and everybody else was, oh my God, it's Master Chief. Oh my God, it's the gunny sergeant. Oh my God, they were all like freaking. Okay, what have you done? I haven't done. Oh, you've been to combat. I admire what you've done. For the rest of it and all this screaming in my face just really is irrelevant to me. Just show me what you need done. I'll do it and do the best I can. So,